It was snowing now, with large gray clouds overhead casting an eerie tarp above the world. Large puffy flakes of snow drifted lazily down upon the mountains, creating a physical chill in the air, though the air was cold enough without it. The camp of the Blue Dragon. It was nestled in the heart of the mountains, just west of Valkenheim's populated regions. It was still early morning, and the camp was just gradually waking from a long night's rest. However, those who were awake felt a strange sensation, an unwelcome presence. It couldn't be explained until one of the guards at the gate ran to the tent of General Tian Zhilong to warn him of who had arrived. The Serpent General. General Zhi had come to their camp. He rode in upon a great white horse, with two of his lieutenants by his side. He dismounted, and many of the soldiers in camp bowed respectfully, though their eyes were downcast, and their mouths curled into sneers. They had to show fealty to the general, even if they didn't support him. They all knew him for what he was. Everyone in the Wulin knew the snake that was General Zhi. Even so, they had to show their respect. Zhi looked about the warriors of the Blue Dragon Court and wrinkled his nose in disgust. He said nothing, did nothing, merely stood still as his lieutenants joined him on either side. After a few minutes of waiting, in the cold center of the camp, a Shaolin approached. He was elderly with a white beard and bald head. He wore clean yellow and black robes, and he gave a respectful bow of his head. "Honorable General Zhi, it is a pleasure to have you in our camp. Truly, your presence does us great honor. Truly, you are too kind. The pleasure and honor are mine to be met within such a prestigious company such as this. Your reputation truly is commendable." The words they spoke were polite, well-mannered, and respectful, but they were all lies and masked behind veiled fangs. This was the internal politics of the military officials. The rules of proper manners and politeness meant that, during public meetings and parleys, the two officers were required to show the due levels of niceties and pleasantries. But all present knew that, could these men truly speak their minds, weapons would already be drawn. "You honor us, truly," the monk answered. "General Chen is waiting for you presently in his main tent. I will take you at once." The monk then turned and walked away, leading General Zhi and his followers along the pathway towards a larger white tent on the farther end of the camp. The snow was falling thicker now, but not one person dared to shiver, sneeze, or behave in any manner that would display weakness or irritation. This was as much a war front as if they were on the fields of battle, and not one would flinch. At last, General Zhi appeared in the tent of the Blue Dragon, and without waiting for an introduction, strode inside. It was a slight breach of typical etiquette, but it wasn't entirely out of line. As General Zhi stepped inside, the dragon looked up from where he sat in his mahogany chair, his long white beard the same shade as the snow, and his weary eyes glaring at Zhi. Despite their age, there was an energy to those eyes that burned like a chilled fire, a blue ember that marked him as the azure dragon that all hailed him as. This old man was every bit the warrior he had been the last time Zhi had seen him, some 10 years ago. And that only irritated Zhi all the more. "General Tian," Zhi bowed respectfully, removing his helmet and smiling pleasantly in that thin, lined grin. "You are looking exceptional today." "Greetings, General Zhi," Zhilong answered. "It's been so long, I had almost forgotten your vigor and presence. But time itself seems unable to touch you. Were we all so lucky?" He chuckled, and Zhi chuckled back. "Do not be so hard on yourself, old friend," he added. "The years may not have been kind, but as the saying goes, a man lives one lifetime, a dragon lives hundreds of lifetimes." "Ah, yes. But there is another saying. Everything under the sun has its time, and I am no different." "Oh, of course, of course. I do recall you asked Emperor Gao Lei quite frequently about that time, correct?" The question was polite and fair in tone, but the words themselves revealed the venom behind them. It was a clear provocation, but Chilong had been at this game far too long to fall prey to it. Yes, I had. For when one experiences enough death, He begins to wonder how the embrace feels himself. Zhi nodded, disappointed that Chen did not rise to the bait, but shrugged his shoulders and took a seat in the fine wooden chair across from Chilong. The two smiled at each other outwardly, but their eyes showed their souls to the other. General Zhi. In the past, he had been one of Gao Lei's trusted advisors and one of Sun Da's most exceptional comrades, a fine warrior. However, unlike Sun Da, who favored the alchemy table to the battlefield, Zhi was far too in love with the thrill of war and was often sent to wage war against the enemies of Gao Lei. He was a ruthless tactician, an exceptional warrior in his own right. But what he was truly renowned for was his audacity and his cunning. He had earned the nickname the Violet Viper, for he was crafty and a master at manipulation and deception. Zhilong had never trusted him, despite his many victories from what had appeared to be certain defeat. There was something about General Zhi that rubbed him the wrong way, a sort of ambitious spirit about him that reeked of danger. Even now, though he was clearly years older, and he had seen far more battles since the fall of Gao Lei, General Zhi had not been humbled by his time wandering. He was still a cunning serpent, a viper with his head reared back, fangs behind a polite and welcoming smile. Meanwhile, General Tian Zhilong, the Blue Dragon. General Zhi had heard the legends of this man before he'd ever met him. Gao Lei's personal master of war, a commander of legions of warriors whose understanding of war and battle was so complete, it was said that when the dragon opened his mouth, it was not flame, but divine will that poured from it. Zhi always assumed these rumors to be nothing more than the chattering of young officers and warriors. And yet, Chilong's abilities were all Zhi needed to know that there was something to these fables. It had been foolish indeed to think that the death of his wife would break the dragon's skill or spirit. Oh, Gao Lei had been foolish indeed. But there were other ways to break men, and not all of these methods required weapons. Merely information. This meeting, Zhi was certain, would end with the dragon at his mercy, or dead on the floor.
Now, to business, Zhi said firmly. I am sure you are more than aware of what has befallen Heathmore since the incident.
If you refer to the matter of the Hungry Ghost Festival and the sudden attack of Bai Gujing, yes, I am aware. I was part of the relieval effort to help citizens escape that disaster. Funny enough, I don't remember seeing you at the festivities, Zhi. Tending to other matters.
I've never been one for celebrations and revelry, Zhi answered mildly.
Yes, I suppose such events are quite boring to a man of your ambition, Zhilong muttered with enough politeness to be safe, but adding enough coldness to show he was growing impatient, and that he was all too aware of Zhi's nature. Zhi did not flinch, but only smiled.
Oh, yes, I do not deny that I am a man of ambition. Do you know my ambition?
Share with me, old friend.
My ambition, my dream, is a reunified, strengthened, and powerful Wulin once again, he said proudly. His eyes shined at the prospect. Imagine it, General Qian. Our people, respected as they once were, feared as they once were, ruling as they were always meant to rule. Look at where we stand now. Mere wandering vagabonds, divided in minuscule war bands, only able to scrape by when once we fought under the mandate of heaven. Once we were the voice of heaven itself. The tigers who knew no fear and devoured nations that stood against us. Those, truly, were our days of glory.
The glory days, Zhilong muttered. Perhaps the years have changed you, General Zhi. You speak like an old man pining for his days of youth.
Mock me if you wish, but you feel it as much as I do. Zhi added a slight edge of fanaticism to his tone. Admit it. Do you not miss those days?
I miss many things, General Zhi, Zhilong answered. I miss my beautiful wife, Mei Ling. I miss my precious child. I miss my emperor and the empire we fought to build. So yes, I do miss it.
But we cannot move forward by lamenting the failings and losses of our past.
I agree with you, Zhi added, which is precisely why I say we create a future that mirrors our past glory. I believe that we should unite the Wulin once more and restore what was ours.
Indeed. And how do you intend to do this, General? Zhilong asked softly. We have tried to unify in the past, but the same result always occurs. We form alliances with old allies and comrades of the old days. But once strife occurs and disagreements arise, as they do, the alliance fracture and the two warbands separate again. There is no common emperor that unites us. The mandate of heaven must be appeased before the Wulin can truly unify.
I couldn't agree more, old friend, Zhe added, rising to his feet and walking a few paces towards the wall of the tent where a few trinkets lay, little idols and lanterns that Zhe fingered delicately. I believe it is time we satisfied the mandate. It's time for a new emperor.
I will not insult both of us by feigning ignorance as to who you would see take that throne, Zhilong growled, a great deal of his politeness fading.
Zhe smiled, turning to face Chilong. You know, that's what I admire about you, Blue Dragon. You are no fool, and you are not one to make mistakes, which is why I am confident that you will know the correct course of action here and now. It was now or never. The time had come. The moment Zhe had been building to and that Zhilong had anticipated. Lend me your strength, General Tian Zhilong. Join under my banner, and I can assure you that you will see great rewards heaped upon you and your Blue Dragon Corps. What say you, old friend?
Tian Zhilong stared at Zhe a long moment before furrowing his brow, closing his eyes, and letting out a long, low breath from his nose, letting the warm air drift around him as though he truly were a dragon waking from a long slumber. To be frank, I'm a little surprised. Given your nature, I'm stunned you're not vying to be ruler of heaven itself. Zhilong sneered.
One step at a time, Tian, Zhi chuckled. So, what is your answer, Blue Dragon?
It is a pleasant offer, Tian Zhilong answered, leaning forward in his chair. But like you said, I'm not one to make mistakes, and it would be a truly grievous one to extend a hand to a serpent like you.
Zhe's mouth twitched, though he did not lose his smile. Be very careful, Tian. I'm not someone you want to make an enemy out of.
Make an enemy out of you, Zhe? Forgive me, but I never thought of you as anything else.
At last, Zhe's smile slipped away to be replaced with a serious frown. You tread a dangerous path, Blue Dragon.
Do I?
Zhilong responded. Zhe snarled and stormed closer, kicking his chair over, showing he was done being nice, being pleasant, being polite. The clatter was loud, and Zhilong himself rose to his feet quickly, rising to his full height and glaring daggers at Zhe. The pleasantries now over, they would speak as dragon to dragon, serpent to serpent, warrior to warrior. Your warband hangs by a thread as it is, Chilong, Zhe snarled. You will not last long in Heathmore by yourself, and you know it. I offer the Wulin a new beginning, a chance to rise above this squalor and defeat we find ourselves in. And what of you? Hiding in these cursed mountains like a pack of starving, ravenous wolves, chewing your own legs for want of meat. Yet when offered the chance to rise from this hovel, you bite and bark at the hand that extends it. Zhilong glared at him angrily, but said nothing. Zhe's fury and voice rose in equal measure, and he nearly went to his sword, but refrained, as he realized he did not have it. It was in the hands of his lieutenants. He nearly jumped to his feet like a madman and roared at Tian Zhilong, "Don't be a fool!"
You may go, General Zhi. We have nothing more to talk about.
Tian Zhilong turned away, glaring darkly at the wall, physically demonstrating he had no more to talk about with Zhe. But Zhe's anger having subsided some, his shoulders heaving, breath coming in slower bursts. It was clear he wasn't budging. In fact, his frown began to twist again into some sort of parody of a smile. It was as though he were attempting to demonstrate some degree of kindness or politeness, and was doing so quite poorly. Or perhaps he never intended that message to begin with.
For what do you remain so stubborn, Tian? Tell me, what is it?
Loyalty, Tian answered.
Loyalty? To what? To Gao Lei? Zhe laughed. I never took you for a fool, Tian Zhilong. The old emperor is dead, and if you thought him any less cunning or cruel than me, you are sadly mistaken.
He took a step forward, but to the side, for there was no way he could anticipate how Zhilong would respond to what he said next. It was a calculated move, a card he'd hoped not to play, but he would. If he could not win over the dragon, he would shatter him at the root.
I know things, my friend. A few secrets you are not aware of. Secrets about Mei Ling, your wife.
Zhilong's eyes opened wide, his back stiffened, but he said nothing.
You see, General Zhi continued, the emperor you cling to with such devotion and loyalty, admirable as it is misguided. It was he who arranged your precious Mei Ling to be kidnapped and used as a hostage. Oh, yes, it was he who betrayed you, Chilong.
Zhilong stood still as a statue, his back straight, his eyes wide, his jaw set. His hands shook, and Zhe smiled.
That did it.
What did you say to me?
He betrayed you, Chilong. It wasn't his intention for her to die, of course. You see, he wanted you dead, Tian Zhilong. You were too dangerous. You were a threat to him. He wanted that battle to be your end, not your wife's. But thanks to her, you live on. And in a sense, you've become his perfect broken dog. You were never his servant, Chilong. You were his slave, broken with guilt and shame that was his to lay upon your shoulders.
You, Zhilong hissed. How do you know this?
Does it matter how? Zhe asked. You know well the kind of man Gao Lei was. You are more than aware he was a cunning and cantankerous old badger. Deny it all you want, friend, but you know I'm right.
Zhilong's eyes closed a moment, and Zhe nearly beamed to see tears brimming to the corner of the old dragon's eyes. His shoulders were slumped, his lip quivered in anguish. The dragon was broken, because he believed him. He believed, and his guard was down. Zhe's hand went slowly to a dagger at his belt. You have no reason to stay loyal to that old bastard. Join with me, Chilong. Become my dragon, and I shall grant you all that Gao Lei would not. You say it doesn't matter, but it matters. It matters that you know this, because the fact you know damns you, General Zhi! The blue dragon's movement was so fast and so ferocious, Zhe had to fling his full body backwards as the dragon had suddenly leapt from his chair, his guandao in hand, the blade only inches from Zhe's nose as it arched just from his face. Zhe blinked furiously several times, as though they could feel the cutting in the air with the strike. Zhe drew his dagger fast, but knew that now that Zhilong was armed with his signature weapon, it was little more than a toy. He needed his sword, but he'd left it with his lieutenant outside. But to take his eyes from Zhilong now was asking for death. But as for Zhilong, his face was contorted in rage, and he had a growl upon his face that was so inhuman, Zhi thought an actual dragon was about to manifest from the old man's flesh. I knew, Zhilong snapped. I didn't want to accept it. I didn't want to believe it, because I knew that Gao Lei was a foolish man. He was my emperor, and my friend for many years, but I knew he was a foolish man. He could never have concocted such a plan himself, so I always dismissed my fears and concerns.
But now, thanks to you, I now know the truth. Yao Lei could not have come up with that plan himself, but he had the hissing of a viper in his ears.
General Zhi snarled and cursed furiously. This had not been how he planned things to go. General Tian Zhilong was more clever than he'd anticipated. He was on the back foot. He'd overplayed his hand, and now the dragon was poised to strike. He had but one last failsafe.
I will not ask your forgiveness, Chilong. It would insult us both to pretend I honestly feel sympathy for you, Zhi snarled. But before you slay me, know this. I have surrounded your encampment with my own army.
Zilong's eyes narrowed darkly.
Kill me. Kill me now, and they will attack at once and slaughter you all to a man, woman, and child. But let me leave, and I shall take them away, and you will not hear from me again.
Zilong and Zhi glared each other down.
Begone from my sight, Zilong snarled, for my loyalty was not to that fool of an emperor, but to my soldiers, my men and women under my command and their families. I care not for empires and prosperity, Zhi. I only ask for happiness for my Blue Dragon Corps. So long as they have that, I will die happily. So I will spare you for their sake. But know this, you treacherous snake. There will not be a day that goes by I will not hunt you down, that I will not be preying at your heels. You will never again know peace, never again know prosperity. And when the day comes that you finally back yourself into a corner that you cannot escape from, I will show you the true culmination of your ambitions and schemes. Bold words, Blue Dragon, but words alone cannot kill me. Your words today have sealed your fate. Meditate on that as you flee my camp with your tail between your shaking legs.
Tian Zhilong did not emerge from the tent after Zhi left. Everyone in the camp watched him ride out swiftly and without waiting. He took his sword from his lieutenant and rode away fast. When the monk Tao Jingyi saw this, he stepped into the tent to see Zhilong sitting at his chair, his head in his hand as he shook it slowly. While most saw the austere and mighty blue dragon, Jingyi had always been able to see Tian Zhilong for the tired old man he was, and he stood beside him, resting a hand on his shoulder.
All is well in the camp, my friend. That snake. I came this close to ending his wretched life.
Jingyi nodded.
Perhaps you should have. It would have doomed us. His armies would have descended without mercy, Zhilong answered. Even were we able to repel them in the end, it would cost the lives of many women and children who need not lose their lives needlessly. My vengeance will not be brought with their lives. Our warband is not just soldiers, but their families and refugees from China. Their prosperity is my priority, as it always must be.
Honorable indeed, Zhengyi smiled. But, my friend, someday I do hope you will learn to be a little more selfish. That way you would not be so miserable.
Miserable? Zhilong asked. I was miserable for many years since my wife passed. But today, my friend, I look out at the Blue Dragon Corps, and I see smiles on the faces of my comrades, hope in the eyes of pregnant women, joy in the laughter of children. We are building for ourselves a future here, a future without the need of austerity or prestige, a future of humility, of promise, of love. And that alone is reason for me to rejoice. What are we, Chilong? A pair of old fools gazing longingly at the youth of today? Speak for yourself, old fool, Zhilong laughed, as the dragon returned to his tent, to rest and to pray for his wife.